Welcome to Imagination and Co-Creation, the Midwest Chapter Medical Librarian Association Conference for 2025. I would like to introduce Philip Walker, Director of the Biomedical Library, Vanderbilt University, Nashville, Tennessee. Today he will be speaking about stillness in motion, purposefully co-creating the future of health information sciences amid uncertain times. We will join his talk in progress.
Um, okay. So, and for all the social taggers out there, I am not on the major platforms. I kind of took back some of my time, but I am on LinkedIn, and I do believe Vandy Libraries is still quite active in the social media platform. So, just wanted to kind of make that notice. All right. So, why? Why? That's really the question with so much going on of why? Why the Zen theme? Um, why is the presentation formatted the way it is? I see this as I was quite challenged as to what to do. I see synergy. Some may think of this as maybe three different TED Talks, to be honest with you, but I do see some synergy here. I will also let you know I'm not here to talk about libraries, not here to talk about physical or digital spaces here. I am really here talking about the current information ecosystem. But my time here as the keynote speaker, as the opening speaker, is to really try to set a tone and engage you, also inspire you, and provoke thought. I know we've all had different experiences with various keynotes. Some things were just mind blowing. Some things were humorous. Some things was like, oh, I read that 2 days ago in a journal article. So hopefully we can have some shared interest and engagement here. But more than anything, to inspire you for the remaining 2 days of the conference, and also to just try to get some thought behind where are we going? Because based upon the theme about creating and reimagining. Now, I do acknowledge there's a wide diversity of institutions here, with whether or not those who are standalone, those who report to campus libraries, those who do or do not have medical centers, or your medical school has an agreement with a hospital, and various schools that you all work with as well. So I do acknowledge that, try to make it as balanced as possible. But of course, um, a lot of what I think and do on a daily basis is based upon the needs here at Vanderbilt University. But I tried to also touch upon some of my experiences at other schools here. So, but more than anything, I want us to really reflect not only for these 90 minutes, but also for the 2 days here, because there's a lot going on with information, especially in health information. And I want to be able to bring in that information science component here to be able to say that, okay, well, how are we going to address what's going on in information? So the goal is to be very upbeat here. As many of you know me, I am very lighthearted. I'm serious about the work though, and I have extreme passion about the work and profession. But at the same time, I'm a realist. As Bob Knight in his book, The Power of Negative Thinking, has emphasizes throughout the book that we do have to be able to look at that other side sometimes. We do need to really confront reality in order to be able to move forward. So just sometimes we have to look at these times and then say, okay, well, what does this mean for us? How do we address it? So, but in an effort to be um, balanced here. And I do, like I said, I do want to be upbeat here, and I do want to be very, very engaging. But we're going to start a little bit morbid though, and this is our first Padlet question. So, all right, you have entered the a quite macabre museum, and you come across this image that resonates with your profession. So you stop and you start to really ponder it, whether you're standing, or if you're a museum stander or a museum sitter, however it goes. But really want to take some time here in the first Padlet is to, what is your interpretation of these images? So I'll have to lean on Liz and Lisa and Nancy for any responses. I can't see the palette.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can jump in.
Okay.
One says attack on information. Information is being destroyed. Attack on information / truth. War on information. Under siege. Dark times for information integrity. Information is being attacked and or weaponized. Post-truth era. Information can survive the apocalypse, which is a more positive reading, they said.
Yeah.
A dystopian future. Few reliable sources standing. The world of information is being attacked.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what I was thinking about here for quite some time. And if anyone who is, I mean, whatever news you do follow or can tolerate these days, I try as a health information professional, as a health consumer, and also as a, support my family a lot with health information. And at the same time, being on the board of regents, I try to monitor what's going on with Health and Human Services and as well as NIH. So anything between secretary and director Bhattacharya, I've tried to maintain more of a vigilance with that, and there are some concerns, a lot of concerns, and we'll get to that actually in another slide. But yes, everything was definitely on point here with the examples. I intentionally shaded the citation from Copilot. I hope no one really stared at the bottom of the screen and picked up on that. But yes, this was about the description of making information under attack with bombs and arrows. Well, I think I had like well, Copilot, I think, threw in the arrows. I did not ask for flaming arrows, but uh, and as for the one on the right about the polluted information ecosystem, I can't quite understand why the information icon is still so nice and shiny in that environment, but I just let Copilot do its thing. The human in the loop, I did approve. So, all right, so good. Glad to have that discussion right there. So, I'll I'll admit that it. Okay, go forward. So it was a bit challenging with this presentation, and I went through several iterations. And it dawned on me as I think as I was just pausing and staring at the ceiling one day, and as I typically work with music in the background, and I remember this line came. So Tina Marie has a song called Deja Vu, and at the end she says, "I've been here before," and that really created a spark, and it said that yes, we have actually recent memory, and that's it all started. I mean, information, toxic information has been around, misinformation has been around for decades, but when it really came to the forefront was, of course, during the COVID-19 pandemic. And you began to see new terms such as infodemic and misinformation and disinformation. And I think there's even a mid-information term that came out as well. And so the NNLM Infodemic Symposium in April 21, I spoke at that, focusing more on the healthcare side. I think there were some other speakers who talked more about social media, but I just wanted to look at some of the literature and some of the discussions I'd had with colleagues about how they were feeling, and also looking at kind of a very, very informal analysis of the literature that was coming out through some PubMed queries. There was another invitation came out with the North Carolina AHEC. This one was, I tried to make it a lot less scientific and it was more personal. It as time had gone on, I think the brunt of the searching and the news and everything, it was a different feeling for me at this conference as opposed to the infodemic symposium. So I really took a more psychological and emotional approach to this one here. And And this one, we talked a lot about, especially as health educators in the community, really tried to focus on, you know, trying to build that trust in the community, especially amongst the health professionals. And we had a lot of discussion, a lot of quotes that came out from the news. And I thought this one, being that I am actually from Louisiana, I thought this one was very, um, very pointed as well, coming from a clinician saying that misinformation is equaling medical science these days. And that is something that, of course, we're starting to see once again. And further news items that came about, of course, the WHO director bringing about the term infodemic, which was probably just as worse as the epidemic itself. Of course, if we go along with John Gray, the former director of the NHS library in the UK, who says that knowledge is the enemy of disease. So what happens when knowledge is the enemy is actually the enemy, not just the enemy of disease. So that's something that we have to, as health information professionals, be able to address here. And once again, so many articles related to the scientific uncertainty mindset. And we can't forget the famous facepalm by Dr. Fauci as well. So, and that's was a feeling of mine throughout that time too. So we'd usually conclude with each session to really just trying to figure out what those, once again, John Gray's quote, which I actually have on a whiteboard behind me because it really, it makes my day and it motivates me tremendously. But more than anything, I've tried to figure out what is it that we can do. And I think I have the slide later on as well, but during that time, I've always just tried to figure out what it is that we can do. Um, who is it that I need to talk to? And is it the medical students, nursing students, the healthcare professionals here, trying to be able to help them when patients come in with Dr. Google and whatever other else they've found in community forums and online groups. So I've really tried to focus more on trying to help our users who are out there dealing with patients and trying to figure out how can we help inform them. Also having a community health information LibGuide on our page and trying to make sure that whatever they can provide, hopefully will stick with some of these patients and hopefully will have a domino effect from patients to their families and communities. I know it's easy to follow an algorithm, but we do have to hope that there's a possibility that good old fashioned, human to human communication still works. And the upper left was something else that I found. I think I actually found this when I was on Twitter before it became X, is that there was a kind of a call. It's like there's so much information out there. So I feel paralyzed. I don't know what to do with it, but people are dying and, the hospitals are overloaded and we must do something. There has to be some good information out there. Hopefully for those who are able to come to us as health professionals, we were able to help them. I don't know about you, but we were the last library to actually leave campus and we were the first to reopen. I think we were only home for about 2.5, maybe 3 months. And I can just remember just searching like all day and night. Like the time I spent usually commuting to work and commuting home was searching. Dinner time, I was reading. After dinner, I was searching some more because questions were coming in from various health professionals. So trying as best as possible to help them do something. So, all right, we are coming upon the next question. This is going to be a doozy here. So each time I did the sessions with the symposia and also the AHEC group, and I'd also did this a similar session on campus. And I would always think that, this is not going to be the last time. We don't know what it will be, whether it's viral, water, who knows, air, who knows where it's going to come from, or bacterial, fungal, but something else is going to come. This is Bob Knight, that negative thinking. It's like hopefully it won't be as dire, but when's the next one coming? So still thinking about that, and I had no belief that it would be so soon. But I guess that was just naive of me as well. So thinking about the next contagion, whether it's man-made or nature-made. So, and we have this little thing nowadays called generative AI. So I'm really curious from you all, how do you think large language models and Gen AI will impact the next pandemic? And this could be positive or negative in your responses. I'm really curious about this from this group. And as I ask people, some of the other medical residents and doctors here as well. So let's take a little time and see how this new thing called generative AI, well, not fairly new, but
Reading some of the comments, um, people are saying that hopefully accelerate a cure, realistically perpetuate hysteria and misinformation. Someone says, I would hope it will help provide solutions, vaccines more quickly, but I'm not sure since funding for science is being reduced and eliminated. Someone else says positively may help to provide a cure, negatively will be used to disperse misinformation from anti-vaxxers, etc. Someone else comments disinformation and misinformation everywhere. It will make the COVID-19 info environment look controlled. Someone else says scared for the future. Another comment, novices creating misinformation that sounds like it's coming from an expert. Another comment, misinformation will spread like wildfire. Micro-targeted disinformation churned out at scale. Increased distrust in information, maybe a shift towards analytic AI. Bad information in equals more misinformation. Publish more papers, perhaps faster, from a positive perspective.
yeah, that is true. That living review that has, I think, was a Journal of Clinical Epidemiology series way back in 2017. Said that this is how we need to start thinking about the evidence ecosystem. So yes, I agree with all of that. And that's the same thing that I'm starting to hear. I hope you all have been thinking about this. I don't know if your institutions have thought about it, but or any of your faculty have thought about it. But I know we've got a few faculty heavily embedded in AI and thinking about information management, knowledge management. Had a recent conversation with someone in biochemistry who's trying to really look at, we don't see a lot of scoping reviews in the basic sciences, and he has been trying to really see how Gen AI can be able to help with that, in addition to finding gaps in the field, but also trying to build those types of living reviews so hopefully more to come on that one. But I think in a nutshell, the data centers are just going to blow up, to be honest with you. They won't be able to handle this. It doesn't matter how big the data centers are. I understand some of these things are equivalent to like 7 football fields. They're going to explode. I mean, either that or we won't have power in our homes and our work environments because the data centers are going to take everything. It's going to be massive. It is something that hopefully we all are talking about, how to evaluate AI, how to emphasize that human or clinician in the loop. But this is, yes, I don't know, however bad you want to think it's going to be, I do think, yeah, COVID will just, that was the beginning, but this is going to be probably exponential. But it's something that we will have to address. Our users will be looking for us on this. And it's something that I hope that you all have discussed, or if not, after today, we'll begin discussing. And if you want to discuss further, let's do it. Contact me if we need to start. If you are ready to start writing, I'm ready to start writing as well. All right, good. Now, next. So this is one thing I will say as a library director, medical librarian of 2 decades, and board member has really bothered me with the calls to retract studies. Also, the first thing that came out on the right was the possibility of starting a governmental medical journal. That gave me heartburn. One, thinking that I think this was the Lancet article by 2 VA. I can't remember if they were radiologists or pulmonologists, but I think it was 2 VA researchers wrote an article in the Lancet, and then that just started a firestorm about trust and conflict of interest and everything else that goes along with the hyperbole. So my fear was that, one, if we force all governmental researchers, so EPA, DOD, NIH, you name it, NSF, if they have to start publishing in a governmental journal, we have no idea what the peer review is going to be with that. What's going to come out, what's going to be hidden, what's going to be buried, what's going to be fabricated, what's just going to be totally misconstrued. Then, well, what happens after that? Then does the government funding bodies say that, you know what, if we have given you money, then you need to publish here as well. Sure, there'll be some pushbacks from the Elsevier's and Lippincotts and Taylor and Francis on that, because that's their bread and butter. However, should at any time this governmental research, which is a huge benefit to society, especially going into PubMed and being picked up by Google Scholar all over this world, then that to me is very, very concerning, and something that I do hope in this time of my last year and as the chair of the Board of Regents to be able to bring this up. I don't know what we will get out of it, but I do want to make sure that I feel as a health consumer, and I confidently feel that I'm speaking on behalf of the thousands of medical librarians and even old librarians who have some concern over this. And at the same time, being able to control what goes into PubMed or Medline, just because someone does not like the responses or the conclusions. So those are two very concerning. If you haven't read these articles, or if you haven't even come across this issue about the call for a federal journal, please look into it a little bit more. I think in addition to the BMJ citations at the bottom, I think Nature had some of this as well, and Science, I do believe their Science News, I think it was called. I think they had this as well. Kind of repetitive, but some of the reporters take different angles on it. So please, begin to think about how we need to get ahead of this should it manifest. Now, of course, someone's probably saying, well, what can we do? Well, I don't know if this is a solution, but this has been intriguing with these alliances about trying to make sure that we boost the credibility of evidence for vaccine dosing and administration. I have wondered if somehow, some way, we need to work with our institutions and build something I heard in a grand round recently about a trusted research environment. So I need to look it up a little bit more, but the concept was very intriguing to me. And this was a genetic medicine discussion, and at least from what I can recall from the seminar, was that it seems to be something that a lot of the biobanks, I think in the UK, the US, and I think Asia as well, that they've been building these environments to trusted research environments. So I don't know if it's like just a new term or an upgrade to your data repositories, but as I say, I still need to investigate a little bit more. But I do worry though. I'll be honest. One, is this something that we can even possibly scale? Trying to acquire data and articles that may not be uh, compiled at the state level or the federal level. I remember when they were starting to pull down federal websites, and I remember people talking about trying to capture data every day to make sure that if it disappears, we have it. So those are things. I don't know if it's possible that we can scale it. And secondly, I do wonder how our institutions would feel, because many of our institutions are trying to be neutral. Many of them are trying to be invisible. So you kind of wonder how this might be perceived by our institutions as well. But it's just a question with administration and legal counsel, right? But it's something that we have to really think about. Our information ecosystem, especially health information ecosystem, and where this is going. So, and I don't know if there's any comments in the chat about that, Nancy. But I'll move on.
Yes, just a couple. I'll read. Someone says, already in my daily practice, I feel unsure what to say to freshmen engaging in source evaluation, remembering the disappearance of .govs and later reposts with banners that are so polemical.
Yeah, yes. It's not just freshmen. I've had residents who are concerned, nurses are concerned. These are the people who have the discussions with the family members. So, it's not just, you know, our pre-doctors and our pre-nurses, but even those who are actually out there, also trying to figure out what on earth is going on. What can I trust? And we had enough issues with paywalls now and retractions, and now it's like, and whether or not to trust the preprint. So now we actually have to wonder what's out there and what's not out there because of for whatever reason. So I had to go ahead and take a step back. So that's why I say this. It's kind of like three different TED Talks here, but I see that there's some connection. So I really kind of went back to good old library school. And then and with the Masters of Health Informatics, we talked about information a little bit more. And if any of you have taken some sort of a management class, you may have come across with Everett Rogers' book, or even if you've gone to an implementation science seminar, you probably heard of Everett Rogers. So what is it about this thing called information, and why are we picking on it? So once again, we talked about how it's under attack, how just the entire ecosystem is so polluted these days, and the challenges of being able to have credible information to improve healthcare delivery and outcomes, not only in a patient, but also in the population, as well as ourselves and our colleagues. So information, fundamental definition, data, contextualized, structured, communicated to convey meaning. One of my favorite definitions of it, and this is from Rogers, Diffusion of Innovations, is a means of reducing uncertainty. And I say, well, man, that just makes so much perfect sense. But at the same time, too much of it can cause a little bit of paralysis and create more uncertainty and anxiety. But it's just such a simple definition when you start thinking about evidence-based practice, when we start about the things that we do for strategies and annual goals, what is it that we need to do? Look at some information, look at the evidence, and say, well, what does my user base need? What does my institution need? So as I sit down every year and think about goals, sometimes I just have to really take a whiff of the environment and walk around campus, talk to people, and go to a couple of grand rounds and try to get an idea of where do we need to be as this unit here, as this healthcare partner, where do we need to be? And as we know, for those of you in collection management development, information is it's a business. It is a resource that those publishers who know the value of information, and they see that as an asset and they charge us accordingly. Also, our institution uses the information as a strategic resource. As any of you have ever had to do any searches for chairs and administrators, where or even I remember we had to do something for a certificate of need for Vanderbilt Medical Center to be able to expand into other counties. So we had to kind of research on that as well. So it has this purpose, and it's not just, oh, it's just an article sitting in PubMed, or it's just an article behind a paywall, but it has a purpose when you really begin to think about it as an information professional and how this thing called information is being used, or even or if you even want to take it, how data is being used. Something that I really like, and this is from some of the folks here in the informatics department, kind of the people of I call them the people of informatics, as opposed to just data and algorithm people, right? But they look at these frameworks like people, processes, and technology, and I would actually put in people, processes, information, and technology, not IT, but information and technology, because this thing called data and information is flowing amongst the people, how they work, and with these tools, i.e. technology. So I really think we've got to start thinking a little bit more about data and information in that PPT model, which is actually something from the 60s too. So I really think that needs to be updated. And then as so Dean Sittig, who is actually one of my faculty in the doctoral program, he and Singh came up with the social technical framework of HIT, which is very, very fascinating. And within that, you also have information in the form of clinical content that runs throughout the system. You also have the policies and organizational processes that also goes along with information. And you also have communication, whether it's written or oral. So information is everywhere. And we've got to be able to find out where it is and what's our role in it. And we're going to come back to that actually towards the end. So as in the bio, it said that this, looking at this thing called information ecology, which actually came out of the business literature, Davenport's book in the 90s. And there's another, Nardi and O'Day wrote a book, I think that came out in 99. But I really like Davenport's framework of it. And so I have reimagined, because originally Davenport describes it as how people create, distribute, understand, and use information at its center. Well, of course, we know that nowadays we've got to be able to trust information. We've got to make sure that it's trustworthy when we act as a receiver of it, but also as a sender of it, so that the person who also receives that information is trusting not only you, but also the information that you have provided. The value of information is, one, you have the people who want to be evidence-based champions here. You have the people who just kind of do it what they did, whatever they learned in the last CNE, or maybe whatever they learned in school. So you have people who still place a value on the information to make sure that they will try to overcome every possible barrier to utilize information, but also to be able to go in and become that facilitator of information too. And so the icons at the bottom just go along with some additional principles related to the culture, the work processes, the politics of information, as well as the technology of it too. So just something to think about is to be able to understand that not only the ecology, you can think of it, within the school, you can think of it within the entire institution, but you can also take this further out into society as well, if nationally and globally, to begin to think about this thing called information, and how, from the ecological perspective, how it's so connected in everything we do. And going into the evidence-based world, yes, we've got so many terms, and there's there's editorials and comments within the literature about, well, what is the value of each one, how do they distinguish each other, and then there's also what I like, the Melnick article, who said, we've just got to stop talking about this. The barriers are enough, the challenges are enough, so we just need to make sure that if you're going to utilize research, just do it, regardless of whatever you call it. But and I don't know if there's anything else missing, but I know some of the arguments I've seen is say, well, nurses will tell you, well, we don't practice medicine, so of course we're evidence-based nursing. There was some, well, we're more or less EBP. I say, well, that's fine, whatever, as long as you want evidence. And then I know the evidence-informed literature is primarily with the social sciences. I know there's been some stuff in social work, I think maybe public health and education too. But I know it's pretty heavy in social work. Evidence-generating medicine, that's Peter MB, Philip Payne have promoted that very well, which kind of fed into what we now call the learning health system. There was a book I actually saw. I was meeting with a faculty member, and she had this book called Knowledge Enhanced Healthcare, which that's what I said I need to go look at as well. But time. But I thought it was pretty interesting that we have another term, and then now, of course, we have augmented intelligence along with this evidence ecosystem. So, got a lot. But the main thing is we just need to do something with the evidence. So, but the one thing I will say about the previous slide is about being able to use it. Regardless of what you call it, is being able to reduce the barriers to use evidence to improve healthcare delivery and outcomes. So one thing that comes up a lot, I know around here, especially with the kind of more informatics focused faculty, is that I'm always hearing about actionable. It's like actionable and contextual. I tell you, that must come up at least every year when I'm talking to various people. I remember meeting with the former chair of the Department of Informatics, and that's all he talked about was what they wanted to be able to do, whether it's through EHR, decision support, organizational practice advisories, best practice advisories, or even when it comes to being able to take the literature and develop classes with it, not just have a stack of articles sitting on my desk, but actually be able to do something with it and make sure that it fits the class, it fits the patient population. So these things come up a lot, and begin to think that, are we still here to just preserve and guard information? Or are we here to keep it moving? Are we here to make sure that it is applied and make sure it's translational? I'll tell you, I don't have a single journal in my library. Everything's electronic. I still have about 14,000 books in the stacks, which are pretty much stuck to each other, except for the, I don't know, less than 100 that might circulate each year. I think we circulate headphones more than we circulate books. So our goal in the electronic digital environment is to make sure that we can get people to use it as much as possible. If you've got a problem, you've got an information need, you come to us, you can resolve that information need yourself, or want to make sure that you come to us so that we can help you resolve that information need. So in addition to, so the History of Medicine collection used to be a part of the Eskin Library. They're still located here in the Eskin Library, but now organizationally they report to Special Collections and Archives. So that kind of reinstated even more so that I don't have to think about that history of medicine. I don't have to think about that preservation of history or preservation of the institutional history. So that kind of made me think even more so about forward thinking about information as well. So nothing against history of medicine, nothing against the historical folks, but it just made me begin to think about conversations with other faculty and residents about how we need to make sure this thing is not just sitting on our servers, it's not just sitting on our desks as printed articles, but it's actually being applied. So I'm going to go through a few models here just to try to illustrate that. I hope you all are familiar with some of these. I know a few of the folks on this call are probably aware of the Chuck Freeman and mobilizing computer biomedical knowledge uh, content. So yes, on the left side, we have that the role of knowledge and data. And what I really appreciated about Chuck, and I told him this, was that I really like the fact that you have knowledge as a keystone. And he says that at every conference, that knowledge is the keystone to this. And I said, and that's something that we need to be able to put this on every slide and be able to promote this so that when you tell your first year medical students, if you do any type of lectures or if you're involved in OSCEs or case-based learning or problem-based learning exercises, you need to tell them this and be able to shout to the mountain that knowledge is the keystone to healthcare. Knowledge is the enemy of the disease. So be able to show our value and show our zeal and how we are so important as partners in healthcare and health sciences education. The next one of my favorites, the Knowledge to Action Framework by Ian Graham out of Canada. This is actually within the nursing literature, but just one to be able to constantly show that data, knowledge, information moves. It's not stagnant. It's not just going to be able to sit. It has to be applied. It has to be rethought. It has to be revised. It has to be restudied, but it has to move as we create it and doing whatever we can with our users to be able to help them get this information moving to solve their information needs, but also to solve the problems that they have within their units or departments. And one thing, I did a presentation on campus and just kind of shooting the breeze with some faculty members here. We never published this, but I still gave them credit since they were all vital to how we created this. So we just began to think about the ecosystem here. And this actually is part of the Learning Health group that I'm a member of. And we just began to start to think about what is it about that data? What is it about that information? And where is it? And how does it flow? And this is very simplistic, of course, very, very high level. But just trying to get a sense of how this works. And I think I did the blog for Dr. Patty Brennan for the NNL Musings. And this kind of came from that article. It came right after that blog post. So it's had me start thinking about where the information is, where it needs to be, not only in evidence-based practice, but also learning healthcare, and where is it coming from? So it's one of my first models that I just kind of threw together with the help of some faculty and discussions, but it just got me starting to think about and how to be able to present information to our users. So, because very seldom, I have instructors, so they can talk about databases and Covidence and Web of Science, and EndNote. But when I go out, I'm really trying to be at a higher level, listening to the community to try to figure out what is it that they need. And I already know that many of our users, they know about the resources. We did 7,400 publications in PubMed alone last year, and ran the numbers last night, and we were up to 6,200. And of course, I don't think anything's been uploaded in the last 2.5 weeks, but at least as of last night, we were up to 6,200. So I know our users, they know the collection, they tell us about it. But at the same time, I want to be able to look at other needs and other ways that I can upskill my staff as well as myself so that we can figure out what else in this information world that we need to be thinking about or that we can also be looking into. Oh, and of course, people are involved with that, of course. And another one came up with, this is another presentation. I keep thinking about these webs of information and the people that are involved. And I like to tell people very, very confidently that we are in this web. If you If you don't have a library, I know some of these institutions, some of these hospitals, I mean, some of the hospitals, if you don't have a library, of course, I still like to think that slap a computer in the middle of somewhere, but at least that you're thinking about utilizing information. But this is a presentation that I did on campus, just beginning to get people to start thinking about the flow of information and where's it coming from, and the idea is to get people to understand about the information artifacts that come out of these data transmissions, these information transmissions. So it's there. Some people say we're managing it. Some say we're overloaded. Oh, phone beep. I didn't turn my phone down. Sorry about that.
Hey,
You have
Philip.
something, Lisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that we're at 9:50
Mhm.
and we have you on the calendar until 10 a.m. So just giving
All
you
right.
a
Yeah,
10
we're
minute
almost
warning.
done. We're almost done. Yeah. All right, no problem. But still, some of the things I really want to emphasize is to be able to think about some of where do you fit in here, and if you don't see it yet, please do. So I'm just going to run through the AI stuff because I'm sure over the last 2 years we've heard so much about it, and we've also talked about it, and we're writing about it, we're speaking about it. So everybody should kind of know what the AI is, generative AI, and try to figure out what can it do and where do we fit into it. And of course, there's so many questions about the various models that come up, and I could actually add another column for all the different products that are coming out and how to be able to evaluate it, how to utilize it. So these are some of the things that's coming out with, in many discussions. I created this out of Copilot just to try to get a decent chart, because I have been asked by people say, I don't know what to use. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I can trust it. So trying to build some sort of evaluation criteria. And I think you will all have these slides. Please feel free to use it or revise it as well. But getting people to understand it's no different than collection development, but trying to figure out, one, take some of the principles of AI evaluation, but also look at it as a product to be used. So yes, so within the AI space, trying to figure out where else do we need to be in the discussions, in the research as well. So try to find your place as we co-create how we reimagine ourselves to be that partner in this AI space. It's something that we've got to live with it, but one, can we try to create our destiny with it? So just wrapping up with the very, very last, I thought I would at least touch upon the theme in some of these last slides. One is that we've got to be able to think about what can we achieve. I talked about scale earlier, but also be able to think about some of the politics. It's a very, very sensitive issue with our administrations, but I challenge everyone as how we begin to think about the future as health information professionals, that what is it that needs to be done, but at the same time, what is it that we can do? Also, I don't like when people start to think about AI as the enemy. I don't really like that perspective. People have talked about generative AI. Oh, it's the same thing with the web. Libraries are going to go away. What was that Albert and Van Gelder article in that talked about don't close medical libraries, and it's like Wikipedia was going to close libraries, but we're still here. But I don't like to think about AI as the enemy or an adversary. But how do we begin to use it? How do we adapt? How do we change to be able to go ahead and utilize this tool? All right. So that also just goes along with your perspective. So you can take it negatively, you can take it positively, but in this uncertain time, is to be able to go ahead and see what are your opportunities. Do we sit back, be a little passive, or do we be aggressive and proactive, and also begin to upskill ourselves so that we can show a different side of information professionals as opposed to just librarians? So there's two kind of things to look at here is that one, as I say, you sit back, you take this uncertainty, or you say that, well, I don't know what's going to do. I don't know what to do with this thing. And they talk about we're going to lose jobs or whatever else. Or do you just go ahead and say, you know what? I'm going to change the game and I'm going to be a part of this game. And I'm going to make sure that I'm here, my staff's here, my profession is here, that we're all here to be a part of this too, because we still have a role. Because I still don't see where generative AI is going to replace us in any form or fashion, at least not too soon. But I'm sure there's more and more coming out of Silicon Valley that might change that. But at least for right now, I intend on trying to change the game and change perception of health information librarians. So one thing that if you have not read Epstein's book about generalists, please do. That and the last one about the upside of uncertain, two phenomenal books. But Epstein's book about being a generalist, you will feel like it is your life story about being, having to understand research and searching and ethics and IRB stuff. I mean, there's going to be so much that we have to bring to the table that we need to be able to utilize this. So take pride, as I said, change the game, change the perception of what people think about you or think about us, think about the profession, and just say, you know what, this is my superpower, to be a generalist, to know a lot about everything. And to be able to say that I can bring that outside perspective, I can bring that information perspective to discussion, I can bring that people discussion and workflow to discussion as well. So begin to think about this. And I'll just give credit to Christy Holmes for a presentation she did earlier this year by getting me to think about the continuum. But I want to say in the little time we have that, and I'll go quickly on the next model, something I presented last year at the Nursing Informatics Conference. But think about where you fit, where your interests are, where your departmental mission is, where your leader is taking you, or you as an informal leader. Where's your focus within the continuum, and begin to think about this model. I think for the record, we can put all that in Padlet, but I just wanted to say that looking at Davenport's model about work processes, culture, politics, trust in information, the finances and value of information, but also technology. And at least here, as I say, I can't speak for every institution, but at least here, when I begin to think about how data science has come into such prominence within not only healthcare, but education and research, I've actually been there, but you've got informatics discussions in so many places, and this thing called connected computing, cognitive science, that we can be able to work with this stuff and work with each other, but also how do we get this into translation? How do we implement this stuff? How do we sustain it? So begin to think whether it's you as a partner from the clinic, from the classroom to the clinic, from the bench side to the boardroom, but also from patient to population. Where is it that if you're not in this model, ask yourself why not, and also begin to have some discussions about this. Make sure that it fits, of course, within your context, but I just want you to be able to start thinking about where we need to be in the future. And if you're not there, if you are there, how to substantiate it, sustain it, but also if you're not there, to be thinking about this. And I'll just end, hopefully we have a few minutes for room or that last discussion, but one of my favorite quotes, and I will stop talking, is this one that came out of the HBR, was that it just goes along with what I said with the people, processes, technology. It's about what's in the box, not necessarily just the tools and the fancy gadgets and the software, but we've got to be able to understand what to do with this thing called data and information, and how we're working these days to solve our problems and information needs. So I will say thank you to all. Once again, sorry for the rush of the last 10 slides. I hadn't realized that time got away from me. But thank you once again to Lisa and Liz. I do hope this was very, very fruitful to everyone. As I said, sometimes, we know a lot of these things and sometimes we don't. So hopefully there's been at least one aha moment for every person on this call.